Hello, everyone. This is Coach Matt for the Seattle Chess School. Today, we will do part 3 of commentary of Timberlake 2025 games. We are a little bit a ways into the game, and already in game 1 against a 21-20 player, we have a surprise from Timby E4 and going into an open Sicilian with white, which is not something that he normally does. I would point out that in this position, I think going into a Marazzi bind is quite good after A6. Nevertheless, we get some sort of end game right off the bat. Castles looks really strong. Here going for an E5 cheapo, which lands. Amazing. Knight to E4 gives away the knight for very little. Gives away the bishop with check. So here he chose to take with the knight, and this is already winning for Timby. This may trap the bishop, but okay. Bishop to B7, C3, untrapping the bishop. All right, so we're all caught up here. We're in a queenless middle game, very close to an end game, an extra piece. This should be no problem at all for Timby to win. Simply trading down. Oh, look at this, going for more of a tactical type of situation. This is probably resignable because now there's going to be a discovery attack with the knight that is impossible to stop. King cannot run anywhere. Even going to D7 means nothing. Knight takes bishop, followed by knight takes bishop. This wins 2 rooks. Very good. And cheskless here will resign. Yep, right now. All right, so an excellent tactical start from Timby. All right. Looking pretty good right off the bat. Also, look at that. With that plus 5 points, he already reaches 2,200. The last video we did, he was on the road to 2,200. He achieved 2,200 sometime after that. And as we see, he gets there once again. Okay, so E4 in game 2 as well. So we see a very different Timby. Normally, it's English openings, King's Indian attacks, London systems. Mainline E4 is not really part of his repertoire, but it is now. Okay, so this type of thing is an exchange Caro-Kann. Here, knight C6 is a fairly normal move. At some point, black can play bishop F5. It'd be interesting to see if Timby would actually take that particular bishop. I saw a game recently where I think Fabiano Caruana had to face a bishop coming to F5, and Fabi backed off and did not take, and ended up winning that game, as I recall. But systems where the bishop comes to F5 and white does take, and black takes with the G pawn and reinforces it with E6, give black some pretty reasonable counterplay. This one's a little bit different. Here we have a double, some fianchetto here. This one here isn't quite so nice unless somehow this knight can get into the E4 square to make use of that. But on the other hand, if this knight ever does try to move, of course, this will relinquish hold on C5. So it looks like that Timby's got a nice positional advantage, has a simple plan of doubling rooks. I'm pretty certain he will do something like this. He may even do something like this, rook E3, and maybe swing it over for a king attack here, and also doubling. So maybe rook E3 is a good move. Rook C8 didn't really threaten anything special there. Yeah, rook E2. So very Timby-ish move, and probably a good move. Maybe rook to E3 is a little more sort of discombobulating. I mean, the bishop would be hanging. The queen and bishop aren't working together well with the rook on E3. Maybe swinging the rook over to H3 wasn't really all that meaningful. I mean, one of the ideas could have been to play like bishop H6 and trade and put the queen on H6 or something. So maybe H4 here is an interesting move. Trying to get a grip on some of the dark squares once this leaves. Taking is probably not what is wanted. Then black really could play knight to F6 and possibly embark here, possibly even take it with the queen. So this is okay. So, yeah, so it looks like white has got a nice space advantage and okay, trying to break free. However, this is going to isolate the d pawn, which might not be so terrible there. I mean, this bishop has some prospects someday, even with a pawn sacrifice. So probably doubling. There is no tactic based on queen h4. This bishop's protected, so we don't have to worry about bh2. That might lose to f4. This rook is hanging. So here we got tactic time. F4. Oh, he finds it. Wow. All right. So now it's true that black has a check or whatnot, but the point is that this is pinned to the rook. So this wins a piece, at least. Wins a piece at least. Good job. Okay, we can ignore that and just play this, and that leads directly to mate. Knight f8. Now, actually, black could have played knight f8 first instead of rook takes rook, but it isn't going to matter. Wow, look at that. Look at that. All right, so we're seeing a new Timby here, a Timby with tactics, and you can see he's not only winning games, but he's finishing games quickly. This is what we like to see. And quickly, but what I mean is by number of moves, not necessarily time taken per move. That's what I mean by winning quickly, winning miniatures, under 25 moves. You could take all the time you want, clockwise. If you could still win the game in under 25 moves, that's a miniature. That's nothing wrong with that. It just means you played well and your opponent didn't. And that's all that is. Okay, so here he's playing a fellow 2200. I cheat but prove it. Wow, that's interesting name. Queen d3. Okay. So e5 might be a really interesting target later on. Ooh, a very tactical move. I would have expected Timmy to play knight to d7. So maybe he is showing a little bit more aggression here. So here the idea might be queen a5. Possibly, like here, queen a5 might be interesting. That takes away the possibility of pawn takes bishop. I suppose capturing in queen a5 is also another way. Yeah, okay, so this is more direct. Queen a5 is interesting. Okay, so targeting e5. Uh-huh. And look at that. And suddenly the knight is lost. So queen a5 was basically forced there. Yeah, queen c7 is a little, it's attacky, but but it loses a piece. So therefore it's weaker. So probably have to give away the knight for something. Maybe just queen takes e5 anyway. Pawn takes knight, pawn takes something like that, and just play the position. Hope for the best. Yeah, you pretty much have to do that. Okay, so here we'll get to see one of Timby's strengths in chess, which is his defensive ability. Even in losing positions, he's extremely, very hard to finish off. And good at setting defensive obstacles. So he trades queens because he didn't want to lose his G pawn. So here, this is at least a good move, activating the rook. He is only down one on the scoreboard here, but being down a piece is somewhat unpleasant. Bishop d7. Bishop really doesn't have much of a future there. Probably f5. Yeah. Maybe f5 without bishop d7, and then this way you would have like a move like castles already. The bishop, moving a bishop closer to the pawns does not make them defend themselves better. So probably king f7 here. At least don't trade a rook. Yeah, good move. All right. So as usual, very good Very good defensive player. It is good to be a good defender, but if you are a good defender in every game, this means one of a couple of things. Number one, it may be that you're not playing the opening quite correctly if you're always on the defensive, especially with the white pieces. The other thing it may mean is that you're playing in such a way that you're allowing your opponent some sort of initiative where you have to defend against anyway. So this means that the possibility is that you're playing a little too passively, even if you're not playing incorrectly. So making decisions that are more solid instead of actually putting pressure on the opponents, whereby you can gain the initiative yourself. And then, of course, there are positions where, yeah, okay, you made a mistake and you lose material, but you don't have to resign. Those are positions where you are defensive as well. And the reason why you're playing defensive is because you made some sort of tactical error, losing material. So what I'm saying is that if you find yourself on the defensive too often, that means that you're doing something worse earlier in the game. Now here, Rook B7 looks practically resignable. Black doesn't really have a good move here. Yeah, but just simply Bishop D6, and White's going to be up a rook. So this we can give up here. Yeah, that's cool. That's fine. All right, so back to White with E4. So this kind of Timby is very nice to see. So here, Knight B5 is the best move. No, this is well known to be not good since the days of McDonald versus Labordonnais. The very famous game where one of them gets the 3 pass pawns on the 7th rank, even though I believe the person that had the 3 pass pawns also was down a queen at the time, but forced resigns anyway with those 3 pass pawns on E, D, and F. Now, here we're probably not going to duplicate that game, but Black already has a 2-pawn center with lots of active possibilities. So I would already say this position's already a little better for Black. Okay, but nevertheless, this is a type of thing that Timby normally plays well. That might Bishop to B7's a little sloppy. Queen A4 check. Oh, he finds it. Yeah, no, very, very good move. And now Black is all tangled up here a little bit. So probably just castling and making it difficult for Black to develop. This is another way to go. Actually, this is probably better than castling. Here, this makes room for not just Knight B5, but also Rook D1, or possibly even castling. Okay, so that or Bishop G4 was an interesting possibility too, slowing down castling short. Now here, of course, Black should play A6. No, wow. No, how Bishop C8. Well, Bishop C6 looks good. This looks good too. So this is starting to look like Morphy versus the Count or something like that. Some sort of eternal pin on D7, and the rook's connected and shooting down the D file. This one might even happen without any sacrifices at all. Remember, Morphy had to sacrifice 2 or 3 pieces just to get that crushing attack against the Count. So yeah, and so castling is just met by rook takes D5, and that pin ought to be decisive. That knight's now pinned to the queen. Knight B6 isn't going to work. Not even Knight C5 would work there. Okay, so here, yeah, that bishop, there was actually no threat there, so this didn't have to be played, but this is also really crushing. Rook to A7 is out. Rook to A7 would defend the knight sideways, but now there's not even that. So rook to B8, and now rook takes is extremely, extremely painful for Black. Rook takes, followed by rook hd1. Okay, so that's interesting. I don't know if I would have done that because now winning the pawn is problematical. Just simply rook to b7, bishop takes, and now d5 is held, and black will actually get to castle there. So this just wins material, but black can get free a little bit. I think I would have preferred rook takes d5, just keeping all the advantages in the position, winning a pawn, and keeping black all bottled up. And black could not castle there because of the triple attack on d7. So I would have gone for the pawn rather than the exchange, the pawn and the pressure rather than the exchange, and the relinquishing of pressure, I guess. I'm just guessing, though. I mean, it's possible that rook b7, bishop takes is just completely winning for white, and I'm just missing something there. But I do notice that the bishop will be guarding d5, so there's no more of this. So I guess this will be part of Timby's new process, is learning how to play tactically and learning where and when to execute certain tactics as well. I mean, the idea is that just because you have a tactic doesn't mean you have to actually execute it. You could try to build up. Okay, now this is starting to look a little weirder. The bishop's way over here. The knight will be recycled. I guess that's okay. So, all right, Timby's up 2 on the scoreboard. Black's 2-pawn center remains. So that's not completely terrible for him. Dr. Sabri. Okay, so he made use of his bishop on a7. Now black has the bishop pair for his and the 2-pawn center for the exchange. I don't know. I guess white is. I would say white's still better here. Yep, just centralizing. So probably queen g5. No, not queen g5. Yeah, maybe. Actually, queen g4 might be a thing, just gaining lots of kingside space. Yeah, so black prevents that unless, yeah, now of course you can't play queen g4 now because the bishop takes e3 check. So we're in a pin. The G pawn's under attack. So yeah, maybe rook HE1 was a little inaccurate there. I mean, it looks like an excellent like formation, but again, black was given a chance to get active here and prevent queen G4, which might have been a reasonable move. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe you have to play tricky like this, H4. Maybe this is maybe this is the start of something big here. So queen here. Actually, that will unpin the knight. The knight can take this one. So maybe queen h6 is the only move. Unless you want to take right now. Take and take. Maybe a bit risky. Oh, he does this. So probably rook takes. And then if queen takes, yeah, maybe, yeah, I thought, no, not rook g3 because queen takes f2. So yeah, if h4 was forced, I don't know. It seems like black is still alive here. This is the trouble with winning exchanges. It says sometimes the minor piece that is combating the rook is actually a good piece. Now here, maybe this bishop isn't like the most wonderful piece, but it is defending a wonderful pawn. Queen c2, so guarding f2 and threatening rook g3. with some sort of pressure. Rook G3, rook over, something like that. Also, the queen won't have so many squares to go to. Maybe you can hide out on H2 or something. Also, the E5 pawn was under attack. So he guards the pawn. Okay, rook G3, so queen H2. Not the greatest hideout, but a hideout nonetheless. And the H4 pawn is under attack. So, in spite of being up material, we still have a few technical problems. So do we want to give away the H pawn? Do we want to double? And this, of course, will prompt G6. And too bad H5 couldn't be played there right now. This would be nice, but the queen would just take. So still defending. Maybe like queen D2, give away the pawn, and then, oh, that's what happened. And then utilize some of the dark squares of some kind somehow. So the immediate threat is queen H6. So yeah, you probably have to take the pawn. All right. Maybe queen E3, threatening rook H3. This move. Okay, so we have even material now. Queen E7. Queen H6. Okay, so playing for the attack. Now, of course, black can always play F5 and defend himself sideways, but has to do so in such a way that white can't just sack a rook and possibly have like a really quick, and definitely will have a really quick checkmate. So you can't play F5 right this moment, but probably you should wait until the rook comes over first before deciding on any F pawn movements. Feels like that black should be able to defend this attack, but could be a little bit of a problem here. Let's go like this. D4. So sacrificing a pawn, but extending the influence of the bishop. Maybe that pawn's worth accepting. Rook H1. So F5. And rook takes pawn I don't think is on anymore because, well, let's see, pawn takes queen H8 check, king F7. Rook H7 check actually wins the queen. So yeah, no, that is on. Oh, wow. So this is on. Oh, I forgot that we can actually take the queen with check. We don't have to do anything about our queen once it gets to H8. So yeah, rook takes pawn, pawn take. Oh, he missed it. No, in that position, just simply pawn take, rook takes pawn. And if pawn takes rook, queen H8, king F7, rook H7, and we'll get to take the queen with check on the very next move. Wow, okay. So yeah, almost have this, but it doesn't quite checkmate. So probably should pick up a pawn for your troubles. Yeah. So still up a pawn, has reasonable placement for the pieces. Missed an immediate win, but still has good chances here. Maybe have a billiard shot, boom, boom, like this. That might be worth something. We shall see. All right, bishop d5. Possibly dreaming of picking up the a-pawn. Okay, defending himself. Possibly, oh, look at this. Allowing himself rook c1. Probably a good move. Queen here is interesting. Queen's not doing that much on h6 anymore. Can have it come back with tempo. Queen e3. Not really threatening anything. I guess defending the d-pawn, but not making a threat. You know, like rook c1 was more threatening. Well, now rook c1's coming with tempo. Oh, but the idea is check. Okay. So yeah, maybe actually allow this thing to drop in on d3 anyway. Can't really stop it, so might as well have a c file to work with. Rook c1, bishop d3, king a1, and then just play along the c file. Oh, but the rook is hanging. Oh no, that's okay. So yeah, queen e3 had several different problems with it. Yeah, now you can't even play a move that you want. So what? Queen g3, rook h3. Okay, well, possibly you can use the third rank at some point. Yeah, but now this allows the pawns to roll. Ah, that's interesting. Okay, so a fork here and here. The times are starting to roll down here. We got 10 plus 0, so no increment. So goes for a queen trade, which is right up Timby's alley. Yep, take with the rook. And now all of a sudden this is a thing. You can go to a1. That's okay. That allows this. Now you have to play rook c3, only move. Yep. So this is probably a winning ending for white. Huh. Rook here, followed by rook here. Nah. b3. Okay, so this means you won't be able. Okay, and now black could even play a4 there and liquidate a pawn if he wanted to. This pawn is still weak. a4 was interesting because ba was met by rook b1 check, winning the rook. So he could have actually got rid of his isolated pawn if he wanted. So what's the idea here? Rook c5 maybe? Trade a flank pawn for a central pawn. I mean, the central pawn can't be defended, so we can say goodbye to Delroy here. And instead, we'll try to go after Al. So once he picks this one up, now there's two passed pawns on the outside. Black has a passed pawn of his own. There it is. So immediately trying to blockade it. Okay, that seems good. Okay, okay, now black has two passed pawns of their own. In fact, they have three passed pawns. So go pawns go. Go pawn go. Go rook go, also guarding the king. Not bad. Okay, Timby's down a few seconds here, so he probably has to pick up the pace. Yep, b5. Okay. Saving the pawn. Blunder. Oh, blunder. He missed it. Rook takes h5. Yeah, g4 was a horrible blunder. He missed it. Neighbor. Uh-oh. So now he has to play ultra defensively. Take twice here and then promote. Oh, he missed that too. Wow. Yeah, he had rook takes f1, queen takes, rook takes. And if bishop takes rook, then b7 1. So he had two chances here in this ending to finish him off. b7. Yep. a6. So this might even still be winning. Take. Yep. Take g2. So he is winning, but he's being flagged. So he could take the rook. Oh, he did it. He did it, and he gets a draw. That's the correct thing to do there, boys and girls. When you have less than 5 seconds on your clock and you are not certain that you can actually perform the mate, the best thing to do is capture your opponent's material and at least get yourself a draw. And that's what happened there. So that was a good save. Now, on the other hand, Timby had a winning game there. So it's not really a save. I guess it was a save from the point of view of the time on the clock. Okay, so here we got a Sicilian beginner attack by white with bishop c4. And this is already extremely fun for black. They can set up their pieces however they wish. So black is going for a kind of a con setup. This is usually threatening bishop f4, but this, yeah, okay. Yay, I attacked the queen. Oh, no, you didn't. And you actually put your bishop on a target-like square. So you, in fact, did not attack the queen. h6, excellent move, threatening g5. So white probably has to play h4 here. Ooh. Okay, so now we'll have probably an initiative by black all over the board here. So first he goes for a queen side initiative. So trying to open up files with a3 probably. Oh, he takes with the knight. Interesting. So knight c6, a6, or a2 check. All three of those have some interesting points to them. Like a knight a2 check, king c2, queen b6 might have been interesting there. And interesting to see him try to defend that attack. This is opening files to his own king, so this can't be good for white. Knight takes is not possible because of knight takes d4. Pawn e5 looks really good here. Just holding on to the pawn forever. I mean, why not? Okay, so maybe threatening rook c8. I guess this is also okay. e5 was simpler. Just hold on to the pawn, develop your kingside pieces, double up on the c file, and white's got a horrible position. Well, what's this? Knight takes knight. So what's the tactic here? Rook takes. And then what? Bishop e5 check? Is that the whole point? All the more if that works, then all the more reason to have played e5 on move 16. Okay, so what's the idea here? King d8, rook d1. I could see that. King e7, queen c7 might also be a point. So maybe you have to give the rook back. Maybe you have to play king d8, rook d1, rook c8. White can play queen takes, king takes, rook takes, e5 once again, winning more material. So maybe this is the maybe black can actually get out of this. And then rook c8. No, well, okay. So threatening rook c8, knight c3. Okay, so what? Bishop takes d6, bishop takes d6, e5. Oh, I suppose you could take this one. Yeah. Knight f6 might be met by e5. Knight e4. Yeah, that might actually be okay. Although the king looks really bad here on d8. Like I said, white has also been threatening bishop takes d6, bishop takes d6, pawn e5. So maybe just developing the knight. Yeah, maybe, just get the pieces out. Maybe try to exchange a couple. Okay, getting out of any pins. Although knight takes e4, there's still pins. Yeah, now white doesn't have the e5 resource anymore. So this might actually be even easier now to defend because of that. Ha! So easy they resigned. Wow. Okay. So again, a good use of some fighting chess here. Interesting. The rat defense. Okay, let's see how Timby does against a rat. So he goes to a queen's gambit, offers a king's Indian. Let's see if black, after knight c3, if black plays knight f6 or knight c6. Oh, he plays knight f6. Okay, so mainline king's Indian. Knight e2, the Hungarian variation. Okay. With g3. Okay, so this is not that popular. Mostly with knight ge2, we have f3s, some sort of zamish, or like a very early knight g3, h4, h5 type stuff. Played with the bishop g2. I guess this has been played before. So white has at least very flexible center pawns. That's not white's greatest bishop. So for black to do all this, I'm not even certain this is actually an accomplishment to exchange off the g2 bishop like this. This may have actually improved the white king and made white's pawns even more flexible here. White also got rid of his bad bishop. So yeah, that this all might be very well for white. Well, here comes the pawns. We were just talking about that. The flexibility of these pawns. G4 followed by knight G3 looks thematic and good. Knight G3, yeah, followed by rook H1, followed by H5, followed by queen D2, and you probably have like an attack that plays itself basically. So looking pretty good for Timby here. H6 allows queen d2 with tempi. Queen d2 is an interesting tempo move here. Yeah, he finds it. Okay, so now king h7 might run into g5 here. And that might be extremely unpleasant. Not h5, because then black could play g5 himself. And that's not going to be nearly as good. But g5 will open some files, especially that rook looking at the king. Oh, he played it wrong. And now black will have it. Now, probably white still has a space advantage here, but this isn't going to be nearly a rip-roaring attack as g5 was. Yeah, okay. So you can at least play knight f5 if you wish. I mean, yeah, all right. So for those of you that like space advantages, I mean, this position would be for you. For those of you that like to checkmate kings, I would suggest on move 17, play g5 there. One of the things about g5 in this position is that if you play it here, capturing is just met by capturing with the pawn, with check. And since the knight is attacked, the knight would have to go to h5, and white wins at least a pawn in that position, and the king protection is destroyed. If on g5, black chose to defend it with knight to g8, there it looks like that white would not only have the option of just simply capturing, but capturing followed by h5. It also might have been possible to play something like g5, knight g8, and play h5 immediately, where we have all kinds of things under attack and the king woefully placed on h7. So, yeah, there was a lot more potential. Wow. So Timby sacked the bishop, and then the bishop was not accepted. And then, look at that, a clearance. It wasn't even a clearance sacrifice, just a clearance move leading right to queen to h6. And look at this, and black already has to sack the queen. So e takes f5, only way. And we can still play this out, but white is now +7 here. Wow. Okay, so that was not defended very well. Knight h8 take. Yeah, I was wondering, maybe this is just the winning move. So maybe bishop h8 was a giant blunder there. Maybe bishop f8, keeping a hold of h6 was more to the point. So now this is under attack. So he defends it. Okay, so now what? The plan is like bring the rook over here and try to play g5. Yeah, and then all the way over here. So black once again is in a coffin. Oh, that's another good move. Putting that knight even. Oh wow, that knight's okay. So probably has to go back to b8. No, now this knight's never getting out. So b8 was probably better. b8 here. By that time, of course, this pawn's on b4 to prevent all this. So yeah, black is slowly running out of space. Rook h2. So here the idea is rook hg2 followed by g5. Offering en passant, just ignores it all. You could take that with the knight. This does slow down the g5 idea, though, so it looks like e5 might have been a reasonable move there. Maybe white should have en passanted at least probably with the f pawn, and that because yeah, now g5 is harder to achieve. But okay, we're still up 7 points. So f6, right? Okay, so knight g6, knight e6. Probably want to outpost the knight. So here, black can either play knight f7 and keep the knight or exchange off the bad. Wow, he tries to keep it, seeing that e5 is a good square. All right, so let's see. Knight takes rook, knight e5, king e4, knight takes rook. King takes knight, something takes on e7, rook to e2. Looks like an exchange up endgame that looks really good for white. You probably sack the queen back here. Oh, interesting. Interesting move. Okay, so give credit to Hank 92 here. He's putting up a fight here. No, that now you can play knight takes G7. That was okay. Um, yeah, yeah. No, rook to E8. I think it was a big mistake there. Take, yeah, and then on this move you could just take with either piece. It doesn't really matter. You can take with king or queen. You could throw in a check all you want, but now you just have two minors versus two majors. That's not going to win. What, rook E1, queen takes C7. Queen takes C7 looks pretty simple. Yeah, simple. Just mop up duty. Promote your queenside pawns. Put your king on E4. No big deal. This is easy. Huh. Very nice. Very nice. And resigns. Wow. Much more aggressive. Wow. And they give him the white pieces again. Boy, this is starting to look a little unfair. Oh, and then he decides to switch it up. He had a queen's gambit. He had E4, D4, C4 last game. Oh, look at that. The Budapest declined. Yeah, now this is in the age-old days. They on D5, Bishop C5 seems like it would be the best move. It may turn out though that in this position, Bishop to B4 is better. The Bishop C5 can easily be blocked out by a pawn on E3. But the bishop on b4 can easily gain extra space here with like a future a5. You can also exchange off one of the pieces and then just, build up with d6 and castles and everything else. Here it may turn out that the bishop is not so well placed. G3, castle. Now, of course, on the third move, Timby should take on e5 and accept the Budapest gambit. I mean, even though I'm a fan of the Fiorowicz variation, I mean, we should still go a pawn up if we have the white pieces. But nevertheless, here we have again one of these knight GE2 plus bishop G2 pawn formation, which can be quite effective. Okay, so black has done the typical C6 break, opening the C file, making room for pawn B5, making room for all kinds of stuff on the queen side. I would guess pawn B5 here is probably the best way to go. Try to gain some space, back it up with queen to B6 if you need to. Yeah, good move by Chess Adder. Good, very good move. So this is typical stuff. So yeah, castles, queen b6, queen d2, maybe queen d3. I'll have to do something like that. Queen b6 is, I think, a little irritating here. He goes for this attack. Now, the only problem with this is that on a takes b, you cannot play a takes b. And Timby misses this tactical nuance. On a takes b, he would be forced to play bishop takes b4, and then there's a lot less pressure on white's position. This, I suppose, is more tactical, but let's see if there's a hole in this analysis here. Okay, so then this might be the hole. Bishop takes, queen takes. There it is. Well, yeah. Losing a pawn, unless f4 is a crusher. F4, knight takes E3. Yeah, maybe knight takes D4. Okay, well, if this is the case, then black just won a pawn there. So that was the hole in the tactical sequence with knight to A4, is that black can actually do a distraction tactic, distracting the queen away from D1 all the way to A4, which wins the D5 pawn, which is a very valuable pawn to win. Oh, it looks like it wins 2 pawns. Yeah, he'll try F4, but of course the rook can just move. Rook A7. Maybe even rook A6. Whatever is best in life here. He's thinking about it. That's interesting. Yeah, okay. Rook A7 is a good move. You can use the rook on C7. If you go to A6, it's much harder to go to C6 since there's the bishop on G2, but C7 cannot be guarded. So, and on A7, it's also guarded by the E3 bishop. So now on this move, you could play A takes B4. Unless you don't want to. Well, you could play EF. So knight takes. And what, A takes B. Queen takes B4. Goes right into an end game, a pawn up. Maybe. Maybe. Do we have anything better than that? So he takes this one first. Interesting. So now A takes B is not on for black anymore, since the rook on A7 is now unguarded. So this is an interesting decision. So hopefully he's got some wonderful way to follow this up. This move, offering a trine-quade, but losing the A5 pawn. I don't know about that. Trade queens and then B takes A. That looks really good for white with the 2 pass pawns and the bishop and the rook. Oh, so he goes like this. Interesting. Probably even better. Yeah, why develop the black position? Yeah, just B takes A. Nope, Timby's move was way better. So now if queen takes, you can take with either rook, and then you can play the Alan Berry show. Start marching these guys down the board. You got this nice bishop helping out. This suddenly doesn't look good for chess adder anymore. It's become chess subtractor. Well, okay, so he's going to try to post up on C5 if given a chance. Okay, so the queens come off. And then what? Pawn B4? Okay, so this threatens pawn B5. So probably rook B8 or something like that. Yeah. So what? Interesting tempo move. Yeah, actually, that's a really good move too. Now you can get B5 with tempo. Voila. Knight C5, you can go A6. You can even go rook to D. No, not rook D4. How about rook D1? Threatening the E5 pawn. Well, A6 first. Yeah. At least these pawns are guarded now. Now you're threatening either A7 or rook to D1 and going after the D pawn here. This looks extremely good for white. Okay, and here I'd get the rook out of all this. Just play rook d1 and retarget the d pawn. Start ganging up on that guy. Black will have a hard time defending it. Rook d1, rook d8, rook f d4 wins the pawn. No, that runs into knight b3. So right technique, wrong execution. And yeah, so he had the right idea, just did it in such a way that it allowed a tactic for the opponent, which is, of course, another good thing to learn when playing tactically. Can't let your opponent have their options as well. Okay, so here the d5 might, d6 pawn might fall anyway. Like this, bishop to b7 looks really unpleasant. So that's why I don't know if he wanted to play rook to b8. But the point was is that he was probably going to win the d6 pawn anyway. But the only problem is he gave up an exchange for it. Whereas the way that I suggested, you would just have won the pawn and not having to give up the exchange. This, of course, is threatening b6, which will win the game. So he probably has to go back. Oh, okay. So what's the idea? b6, rook takes bishop, pawn takes, rook b8. And that is probably a drawish ending. Yeah, he's got this outside pass pawn, but yeah, in fact, Black's going to win this pawn. So this is going to be a drawish one where Timby is going to be on the unsunny side of this end game, where he'll be down a pawn. Oh, he did find rook f6 though. Okay. Well, so here we go. We can go right into a draw right away if you wish. Might as well. This, yeah. Okay. So once again, just puts up the shutters, plays good defense when he needs to, makes a draw where things are worse. Pretty good play. Okay, so here we have his favorite four knights, which not, oh, okay, so this is the pin variation, which also I haven't seen too much out of Timby's games. So let's see how much of the pin variation he knows. Ooh, is that a move? I thought queen g4 was the move. I could be wrong. Pawn takes? Yeah. Oh, wow. Huh, knight db5. I don't know if I've ever seen that one before. So this actually looks like it's going to turn out pretty good for white here. Can almost play bishop to e3 first, and then knight to d6 check. Yeah, this looks extremely unpleasant. Bad bishop, bad rook. Even if you play knight c6, I mean, this knight doesn't have too many prospects. Not in conjunction with the other pieces. Oh, wow. So what, bishop a3? Rook b1, bishop f4, bishop f4, okay. Okay, so I mean, white has some unpleasant pressure, but really no way to finish this off. I mean, this might actually allow queen a5. Some sudden counterplay. Well, if you're going to play tactically, Timby, here's one way to do it. Oh, wow. The interesting thing about that move is that move's not a tactic. That's just a single attack. Queen A5, however, forked B5 and C3. And hence, perhaps stronger. Oh, that allows E takes F. Or, well, maybe not. Well, oh, take first. Excellent. Good play. Okay. Good play by Dubious here, because on B takes E, then you play EF, and then Queen takes F6 is met by bishop to E5. So Dubious played that correctly. So yeah, and then Timby walked right into it. Losing another exchange. So we're getting tactical situations and exchanges are being lost. Getting greedy. Offering an endgame. Down in exchange. He does not agree with this. So probably like queen to E3. Win some sort of tempo here so you have time to castle. Good move. Threatening queen takes G5. Now when G5 is defended, now you have time to O-O or O-O-O, whichever one you think is more aggressive or more helpful. So he goes O-O. Fine. So this move, there was also bishop to A6 winning a tempo. So here wins another tempo. And now the position is starting to loosen up. Take, rook B1 maybe. Rook A B1. So more files are getting opened. Stuff is being pinned and forked. Yeah, Dr. Dubious played that quite well. All right, so queen to E7, keeping a hold of G5. C4 again, trying to bust it up. In the center, at least. Rook C8. Okay, trying to hard getting the rook into the game. C5, so kind of a change in plan. So bishop takes C2. Is that a move? Bishop C2, he probably just moves the queen somewhere. Queen F3. Yeah, bishop takes C2, queen F3. Something like that. So what, C4 again? Yeah, look at this. This is the immortal let's play C4 a bunch of times game. So trying hard to set up a defensive barricade in the middle. Very Timby-ish move. Pure defense, no offense to it whatsoever. So rook D1, that looks reasonable. Oh, wow. Wow, look at that. Walked right into a really bad position. So king to E5 is already basically forced here. So time to go out in outer space. Let's take our chances. It doesn't look good, but whatever. Well, he's thinking about it. Yeah, king to E5 is the only move. That's one unfortunate point. Yep, have to do that. Bishop F5 was just met by rook D E1, and that was game over. That lost at least a piece. So, okay, so open up the center, but queen C5 is check. Oh, but he missed it. Queen C5 is check. All right. So this is threatening queen takes g5 check, possibly queen e8 check, possibly queen h8 check. All of those look really bad. So which one do you want to guard? So he guards against e8 and g5, but not h8. But maybe that didn't mean anything. He does play queen h8. So back up. And now what? Rook f8? This check. Well, trying hard to put up a fortress. Yeah, I thought queen h8, king e6, rook f8 was the killer. Well, maybe he find it the second time. And now rook f8. Oh, he missed it again. Okay, so not really threatening anything, but just simply re-centralizing, which is a good strategy. Nothing under attack at the moment. Okay. So this is the idea. Now he's starting to play really fast, so he must have a plan in mind. So rook d2, good defensive move. Pinning the bishop. Also taking his rook off of a light square, which might be useful in the future. Still not really threatening anything. So again, a defensive move. Here, this threatens queen takes rook, pawn takes, rook takes bishop check, winning a rook. So this has a concrete threat. Also, queen g4 might be a unpleasant check. Let's see. Queen takes rook, pawn takes, rook takes bishop check, king takes rook e2, king d3, rook takes rook takes queen, c3, takes a7, followed by rook c7. That should win for white. So white can exchange it all down if he wants to, right here. Exchange it all down, sack the rook for the c pawn, queen the a pawn. Wins pretty easily. If Timby had white, that's exactly what he would do. Wow. And so he missed it. Okay, so this is actually threatening queen takes d5 check, which is unpleasant. So how to defend that? Queen c5 maybe? Queen e6. That move came really fast. And then what? Rook F2, rook. Aha, okay. So finally making air for himself and targeting G5. Also an unpleasant move. So now if white wants to, he could trade queens. If he thinks that the extra exchange is enough to win, can also keep the pressure on. Rook df2 is interesting. G pawn's not going anywhere. You get a free move here. Oh, he takes right away. Wow. That seemed queen d6 check. Okay, but now white has to watch his king too. His king isn't that wonderful. Queen h8. No, repeat once. Or repeat twice, I mean. I guess that's repeat once, yeah. Then rook df2. So maybe this is the best way. I mean, white has now successfully got rid of almost all of black's defenders. So king g1 ought to be really nice here. Interesting decision. Now go into the end game. Right when the black king was at his most exposed, he now chose to trade queens. That's an interesting decision. Unless it isn't. But like I said, this is rook a4, rook f2. I'm trying. It's another interesting decision. Fortress in the middle of the board here. So once again, he gets to show off his defensive skills. But like I said earlier, to show off your defensive skills means that you probably did something wrong earlier. Otherwise, you will be showing off more of your attacking skills rather than your defensive ones. That's just general considerations there. That's not always true. All right, so white's trying to construct some sort of mating net. Okay, threatening rook g3. Just rook g3 anyway, yeah. That might be a pretty easy ending to win. I guess you have a free move here. You don't have to play rook g3 right away. Well, pawn d4. Okay, now going after the A pawn. This is a very interesting technique by Dr. Dubious here. And look at that, creeping ever closer to the king. Now he trades rooks. Could even trade the rook for bishop and then rook for rook, and that might be an easy win too. Well, maybe not easy. No, don't quite do that. Just trade rooks. Could even play rook f8. Could even play g3 check, actually. G3 check. Actually, g3 check just wins. G3 check, king moves to the e file, rook checks on the e file, king e4, rook e8, and then you win the bishop on f5. So g3 is kind of a funny x-ray tactic. Oh, but he missed it. Oh, he goes for this. So he counted this one out just to make sure that this one was winning. No, king f2 was excellent. Well, okay, now this is just winning. Go pawn go. He's actually not getting his king into the king c7. Wow. Okay. Now he finally got it right. Stinkeiter. Okay, we'll make this the last game here. So I'll thank Timby in advance for donating his time and efforts here. Okay, so here we have the so-called Jobava London, the Stockfish London. So London versus London here. Type of thing that Timby normally likes. F3, funny. F3 actually forced the action there. So bishop g6, h4, h5. G5, knight d7, reasonable. Knight f8, probably. Take, take, interesting. Take and g6. Oh, that allows g6. Yeah, ace, queen b5 was not the threat. It was pawn g6 is the threat. White didn't execute it, so black gets one more chance to play g6 here and also rejects this. Okay, now that seriously threatens g6, although white probably had that move one move prior. Yeah, maybe not anymore. Not anymore. So here we just have a no bishop position. Everything but bishops are on the board. Knight b6. So heading for knight c4. Should probably be blocked by b3 or some such thing. Yeah, I would say white's probably slightly better here. Okay, now a6 is weak, so you got to be watching out for that. So he does. So going for maybe a c3 break, c4 break. It's also got an E4 break if he wants it. Try to play for that. So now he plays G6. I thought that was a move that was to be played a long time ago. But okay, so we eventually got this move in. Trying to slow down anything that white can do on the king's side, but here comes the queen side play. So it was C3. And probably rook takes. Yep. And rook HC1. Also, knight takes G6 is a thing that white can contemplate. Knight takes G6, F takes, queen takes G6 check. If the king goes to the H file, you could take H5 with check and win 3 pawns for the piece. If the queen went to G7, then you could take E6 with check and win 3 or 4 pawns for the piece. So this is why he plays king to G7. So yeah, knight takes G6 on move 22 might have been the winning move there for white. Let's see if he gets another chance. So this hits the A5 pawn, which is in fact very weak. So now white owns the entirety of the C file. That seems good for him. Okay, but now we're back into defensive mode. And white is in total aggression here. So the plan is something like queen C6, knight C3 to B5. Could also go rook C6, I suppose. Queen C8. Then what? Yeah, rook B7 might have been a blunder. Queen C8. Let's actually attack the rook. Let's bother him. Where's he going? This are things that I must know. Queen C8. Queen C8. Come on, Timby. You can see that. Trap a rook already. Oh, he's taken B6. I see. Take. Rook B8. Queen D6. Rook takes B3. Yeah, that's probably not enough. That's probably good for white. Okay, so maybe rook B7 was a good move. Okay, so queen A5 is on. At least the rook is activated on C8. Okay, so loses a pawn. Wonderful. So go, rook, go. And now probably what? Queen A7? Threatening A5. Queen A5, knight C8. Rook takes D7. That looks pretty good for white. So yeah, queen A7 looks really strong here. Well, he missed it. He's threatening A5 in a different way, but the queen on A7 hobbled both knights since F7 would be hanging too. This is probably good enough. Now queen C8 comes in. I see. But of course, it was this. The problem was the same as before, which was rook takes knight, which he did not play. Interesting. So this means that white's banking on the fact that A5 is going to be a much more terrific threat than just simply. So this is a case of the threat being stronger than the execution. The execution, of course, would have been rook takes B6 on the last move. But with this, white's using the old adage of the threat is stronger than the execution, and the threat is pawn A5. Stinkiter might actually, or what is that? Stinketier. Yeah, Stinketier might actually have a good point here in this position. So do we get to see the strength of A5? So here it is. So here is a great example of the threat actually being stronger than the execution. And he's going to win a nice little game here. Good job, Stinketier. And resigns. Wow. Really, really executing it. All right. Well, thank you once again, Timby, for the time and the effort there. This has been Coach Matt for the Seattle Chess School, and this has been the games of Timberlake 2025. And I shall see you guys on the next one.